Okay, well, if anything, at least. All right, well, let's see if it starts going live shortly. Hi, Monty. Hi again. You'd think I haven't done this before, and you'd think that LinkedIn, this is the first time for them, and none of these things are true. Okay, let's try this again.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just froze, and I was checking at the LinkedIn live event, and could not get there either.
Yeah, there's too many things. Okay, click to join live. Okay, I actually see it was working on the event page. Perfect. All right, here we go. Here we are again. Amazing. Okay, so we did kill a little bit of time. I think that there's going to be a few of you guys on. Yes, I see people. All right, we are working. Hi, thanks everybody. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back. Thank you so much for joining us. We were having a little pre-conversation around just AI and ultimately this era of founding companies during this time, and historically how we've had so many different instances in historically where this is just another one of those moments and such a great opportunity. So let me kick this off formally. I have two amazing speakers with me for the mentor spheres kicking off. First, I have Henrik Werdelin. Oh my gosh, I realized I didn't prep Henrik to send your last name before this. I'm so
Well, that's
sorry.
all good. That's all good.
Um, uh, Henrik is best known as a co-founder of BarkBox and pre-hype startup studio, AI pioneer since 2019, and the mentor who's helped launch companies that sold to Facebook, Microsoft, and Dropbox. I've actually been also playing around with Audos a bit, and I've been having a lot of fun with that in the background and kind of seeing like, oh, it's been so much fun for idea generation. And then I also have Monty. Oh my God, you guys don't be mad at me.
Kothiwale.
Kothiwale, I literally wrote this down and now I'm flustered. Okay, so Monty is the founder and CEO of QA Solve. Monty was CTO of 3 successful product companies and has 5 patents in progress on automation and knowledge graphs. Super interesting. Um, Monty, when we did the kind of our pre-call, just preparing for this, one of your I forgot, it was Michael, whatever his name was, one of your advisors, he actually mentioned a quote from the All In podcast, which I think is very relevant here and specifically to what you do. We're in this place right now, and I'm going to paraphrase, where we have plenty of these AI tools out there that we're able to like launch companies fast, inexpensively, and with such low overhead that has been, I feel like this has never been possible before, but we also don't know what the implications are. So, where it pertains to our banking, if people, if companies are utilizing AI tools within banking and not fully, really like sussing them out for efficacy and what they can actually accomplish, can also do some harm. So, I think we have both sides of the coin. We have like really exciting things that can be accomplished and also kind of some things that can be quite problematic. And so we already talked a little bit about the tech waves, but are you guys most excited about, and here, Henrik, I'd like to start with you. In regards to the various different tech waves we've seen over time, are you more or less, like, what is your like general sentiment about this one that we're in right now? Like, how excited are you? Or is it, you're like, I've been here, been there, done that.
No, I mean, like, I remember the first time I saw a browser. Like, I'm such an old person that I remember, pre the internet, and so I remember first seeing, like, I'm sorry, I'll kill this. I remember just seeing like the original, what's it called, Mosaic, I think it was called, the Mosaic browser.
Yeah.
And I think when I saw that, I was like, I think I have a pretty good idea what's going to happen in the next 10 years. Like, there was this kind of like excitement about all the things that we could now build. I think I had this little bit of the same feeling when I saw, and I got access to Open AI in 2020, and it was called Playground, and it was like just a text box, and you could write like something, and you can press like the button, and then it'll kind of continue the sentence that you've written. And I had the same feeling, but just I think times 10. I was like, holy moly, like this is going to change everything. And so I think I'm a little bit of both. Like, I think I'm anxious because I think this is like a new foundational technology, like electricity. But
Wow.
I am also very excited because I think every time things like that pops on, entrepreneurial folks, has a lot of opportunity. And I do think that It's going to be a wild but exciting time. So, like riding a ride river rafting, kind of like excited, I guess, like nervous but also excited about it.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I don't know if you guys have seen some of these conversations, and I have a bit of a gripe on this topic around people that are there's. I do think that there's a school of people that are purists in regards to like how things have been, but I find it super ironic that you're like, oh, so you're talking about the good old days or how things should be or how you want them to on LinkedIn on your computer over Wi-Fi. Like, what are we talking about here? I just find it to be like the most ridiculous conversation. I'm like, you guys, like, I don't know. I mean, like on some level, it's like, wake up. Like, I mean, this is just like any of these other things. We've been here before, but this just feels kind of big.
I mean, like, I will give a little bit for the people who are nervous, right? This is potentially a pretty disruptive thing. And I think we're
Yes.
in a period of time where people are worried about a lot of different stuff. And so, I don't know, I have a bunch of empathy also with people who are like, oh, like, really, do we have to kind of learn all this new stuff? And like, but I don't know. I'm an
I'm gonna
entrepreneur,
say
so
yes, and
news can.
I'm gonna say yes, and the reason I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna say it very, very just passionately, is because like I mean I see my dad. Of course, my dad's older and everything, but like he never really got into computers. My brother would be the one like writing up his contracts on it, and and I will say like the creep is slow, but it becomes incredibly obvious at some point, and it's really hard to kind of like at least everybody just kind of looks like an idiot now, like, so I mean, if anything, just like feel okay with that. I don't think anybody's perfectly figured out. I will say, I think with what you guys are doing, you guys are kind of, if we're having a bell curve, like you guys are definitely more on the right side, but like the majority of us are fumbling through it, and I think that that can also be a very fun place to be. Well, let me, Mani, let me ask you, like, so you saw this coming. You literally started a company also on the premise of leveraging AI. So like, I don't know, like when and how and why did you even like, why were you like, oh yeah, AI, I have to go jump into this?
Yeah. No, I think for me, the journey started even with statistical machine learning models working with banks and credit underwriting and so on, right? So LLM had not quite happened. And so pre-trained model with our own training corpus, that was the way to go. And it was certainly, creating results, outcomes that were better than deterministic approaches. And and then when LLMs arrived, it was a big pivot. I think whatever we were doing, that was, we could do it like 10x faster.
Yeah.
And then with every version of LLM, it started getting more, even more productive, less hallucinations. And I think the we don't have to create LLMs generally, right? The hyperscalers do it for us, and then how we can consume it in very specific niche areas is what my became my primary focus. And I feel everyone should apply something similar thought process to apply to their domain, their field of expertise, and certainly unpack those complex processes and embed plug in AI into multiple steps of the end process. And so that's what we are trying to do at QSOL.
Well, and let me, so you've fully jumped into it fully, both of you guys have actually fully kind of jumped into adopting AI for either your own business or helping other people start businesses. And I think that, I mean, Monty, you're probably like on the early side of like, okay, I've created this thing, but then there's also like, I mean, if you can kind of introduce kind of the challenge that you're actually having, because you have a company that is built upon AI, and you're also trying to anticipate work with people that are on various different levels of adoption to AI. And I mean, Henrik, to what you were mentioning earlier, there's a fear. Like there is a very legitimate fear. And you know what? And I will also say it's not, it feels like it's coming to fruition a little bit. I mean, and maybe this is a little bit what am I trying to say? Like, I don't want to be catastrophic around it, but like some of these quotes and everything from these CEOs out here are not helping, I'd say, on two levels to make people feel like they want to adopt it and to actually fear the adoption of it. So, Monty, what are some of your challenges that you're going through in terms of like adopting QA Solve?
Yeah, I think, I mean, several, but the key ones are, I would say, for internal IT adopting something new, right? So in many cases, I'm primarily selling to software development companies, so there will be internal team doing quality, and I'm coming in and saying here is a better way. And so in some sense I'm selling to my incumbent who is somewhat convinced of their own ways of practicing software testing for several ways, and in some cases they have also started doing some experimentation with testing using AI, using vibe coding. And so I think for me to establish that our model is better, and
Yeah.
here is why. I think that process takes time. And then there are ones who have not invested in AI. For them, converting them is simpler. But so that is one aspect. The second key challenge is, I'm in early in my journey. I just went general availability in March, so I'm competing with people who have raised 40, 50 million, and have been around. So they can spend a lot more dollars on marketing and the customer acquisition cost than someone like me, which is a lot, founder-led sales to now a lean, effective marketing team that I'm trying to establish. So I think those two are big, challenges for me.
Henrik, do you have thoughts around just sentiment? And I mean, like, if you build, it's, let's be honest, like, I, I think there's been a time where there's a joke, you can't just build it and they will come. It's like, build it and now you have to sell it a little bit. But like,
Well, I
I mean,
wrote this.
is it different B2C, B2B? I have no idea.
I know B2C better than I know B2B, so I'll kind of mostly stay in that swim lane. But I wrote this book with my business partner, Nicholas, that came out a few months ago, which called Me, My Customer, and AI. And the thesis of the book is what we call relationship capital, which is basically in an age where everybody can do everything, you need to figure out what your new moat is. And the only moat that we feel is going to be viable is basically how well do you connect with your customer. So what we see as customer founder fit. And we have some thesis on like the different kind of, I would say, layers of relationship capital, as we call it, and how that be. So I think in many ways, the people that are traditional entrepreneurs, the people that has a customer that they really care about and understand their problem at a very fine level of detail, and is passionate about using technology to come up with a solution for those customers, I think they will do just fine, because they will have the authenticity and the authority to meet the customers where the customers are, and then they'll be able to have a connection with them. And so that's kind of like my core thesis on how it's going to play out. I think the tactics are going to change like they've always had, right? It was hand-to-hand combat on social for a while. Then you had to do SEO. Then you had to do, like whatever ad is. Like I think there's rumors that ChatGPT will make an ad platform at one point, which might kind of just explode the whole thing all over again. Because then we can't
Didn't
just give our
something just
money.
get launched? I thought something got launched very recently around like an
I
in-browser thing, like the Google killer. I think it just happened.
They did a
Yeah.
browser, but they haven't done an ad yet. And obviously, what is interesting is right now we basically all has to pay Facebook, meta tax, every time that we want to go D2C. And they've built this incredible platform that basically allow us to find customers at a hopefully decent CAC, depending on what your LTV is on your business. I think but the CAC have just slowly creeped up over the last 5 years. And so what's interesting, if you suddenly have a new ad unit hitting the street where you basically will be able to get hold of customers cheaper, and they might not have the same kind of fatigue of looking at those ads, I think you might see CAC going down again, and then potentially you have a period of time where entrepreneurs will be able to get hold of customers very cheaply because they'll be able to go first there and figure out what their conversational advertising kind of like model looks like, and hey presto. So I guess like the long-winded answer of saying, I think growth is a hand-to-hand combat sport where you have to wake up every day and think of like a new channel, and then you will burn that channel out at one point, and then you have to come up with a new channel, and that's just kind of what the game is all about.
Yeah, so Monty, if you like coding, good luck. Now start doing something else. You're like, you better get good at your ad game and your outreach. I mean,
Yes.
like, there's also, I mean, uh, like I also, how do I say it? So we're talking, like somewhat of cost of user acquisition and everything. I also feel like on some level right now it's almost like never been cheaper. Like I literally just the the amount of tools that are quite cheaply done, and I've seen something that's like, let's call it vibe coded or whatever, but where you can, okay, it's concerning privacy wise, but like literally if somebody goes, like I've been served ads like right after I've gone to a website, and I'm like, how did, like I didn't even enter my information there, and it's like, oh, you can just like put something on the, cookie the website and everything, you opt into whatever, giving up all this information, and then, oh, conveniently enough, 5 minutes later you get an ad. And some of these tools, and I'm sure there's like significantly more expensive ones that are like, let's call it thousands of dollars, that honestly, like I implemented one recently for $129, and like they're that cheap per month, and it's not even coded very well. The functionality is actually pretty terrible. Like aside from getting the information, which is actually working. So it looks like people are able to, I don't know, people are making companies to serve, they're like ultimately selling like the axes and everything to people that are looking to find these customers. And I think that with the agents and everything, I think that like there's going to be plenty of things that you can implement. um I'm rambling, but Monty, when you're
Mhm.
actually so let me ask you this, because I mean, I want to make sure that we hash out like this challenge like substantially. So like you're getting on the phone with people that are potentially afraid of you know being fired by like the tool that you are by the tool that you are offering. Let me ask you this: do you feel like your target market actually isn't like, oh, I can have a more efficient team? Like, I know this sounds terrible because this feels a little bit
Yeah.
like cutting headcount, but like, is your market really the developer?
Yeah, I think it's management of developers, mid-level, I would say, and getting CXOs engagement is tough. And I mean, Henrik, I did read a little bit of your book and videos. I mean, that getting to that customer founder connection is challenging because that does require some foundational meetings to get there. So I think uh, what I have been, I've slightly pivoted. First it was I'll say help you save, reduce headcount and cost. I think that was not going very well, so I made a slight pivot there. And the pivot is, none of our clients, if I really look at our clients that we have, they have not really reduced headcount. They have really improved their productivity. So, I think the developers are out there, doing wipe coding, 30-40% of their code is written by LLMs. Now, how do you test it? So developers have moved way ahead, and QA is struggling it. Then QA, you get QA solve service. Then you are you are matching the velocity of the developers, and then increase productivity of the whole engineering team, and you shift left and improve productivity. So I think I'm leading with that is resonating better with the IT organizations. And the other learning that I have is IT companies who are selling, by rate card, and here is, we'll do whatever you like. They are a direct competition, but software companies who are into different domains, and they are focused on their respective domains, and they are a better fit. So I think my own iteration of what my ICP is has evolved is still evolving, I would say. So there is no one good formula where I can double down and say this is all it takes. I think so. Really trying multiple strategies and see how each one do against other approach.
Sorry, I'm responding some of the chats. Sorry, Henrik, do you want to comment on that?
I obviously don't know much about like developers per se, right? It's not my core expertise. I think vibe coding, though, if you want to kind of walk into that one, is a real thing. And I wonder on the DTC stuff, I think there's a lot of stuff that can be vibe coded and can be vibe coded quite successfully. I think we're pretty early days though, so a lot of these products that are being vibe coded, they seem to still be trying to figure out what their business model is. And I'm not convinced that it's going to be just like a one-to-one SaaS software type business model where people will just put on another $10 a month subscription. I think we're probably going to see an emerging of a lot of new business models, for everything. We have this platform called Audos, which is basically a platform where we try to find solo entrepreneurs and help them build a business. And what we see there is that there's business models ranging from obviously success-only kind of payouts to people pay, the agent is free, but people pay the human when they're in the loop, to the most funky one we have is somebody who's doing a language program where she's offering to pay people money if they complete the course, but they have to pay if they don't complete the course. And so there's kind of like a reverse psychology there. And so, yeah, so most of the code experience, I'm a pretty bad coder, but I'm a pretty avid vibe coder by now, and I'm pretty impressed with what you're able to build, even if you don't really know your Python very well.
Yeah. And if I could add, I feel vibe coding will have increased its adoption. Henrik, just like you had, this interview with IBM, they did not come up with LLMs early on, but they adopted, AI quite well across internal operations to save whatever 4 billion. I feel even the lot of companies in China are adopting vibe coding a lot faster than even I feel rest of the world. So I think it's here and now, and and nothing that comes out of it at the first prompt is consumable in any way. It might be compilable, right? But iterating through it, one can really get that magic, component or streak in their software. So I feel vibe coding should be widely adopted. Just many companies that I've worked with, and my own company. I mean, it's a tool that everyone in the company has, whether you're in HR or you're you're a coder, you are equipped with AI
I'm going to
tool.
interject here real quick, just so anybody's listening, because so technically, just for anybody that is unfamiliar with this terminology, vibe coding is an artificial intelligence assisted software development technique popularized by Anjay Kaparthi or something in February. So if I understand vibe coding correctly, I mean, my perception of it with just people kind of just generally mentioning it was like just kind of slightly sloppy coding. Like, is that accurate? Like, how do you define even vibe coding? Because we've been using the word a few times, and I was like, I think I need a little more clarity on that.
I mean, like for me, and Monty will have a much better technical description than I do, but like for me, there are new tools around, which is from the most basic ChatGPT or Claude, where you can ask it to write some code for you, and it'll write like a very simple app. So if you want to say, I'd like you to make a little app that allow me to calculate, I don't know, like calories that I burn every day, then it will be able to do that, and it will be a single app code. And then there are platforms like Audos, but also more established ones like Lovable or Replit, where you can go in and saying, I'd like you to build this specific app, and it will basically go and build the app for you without you knowing any code at all. And then you can kind of try it. And if there's something you don't like about it or it doesn't work, you can say, hey, this doesn't work. Can you fix it for me? And it'll continue to do that. And so for me, vibe coding is non-technical people producing code without really understanding what's happening under the hood, but just kind of like talking to an agent about what they would like to get made.
Yeah.
And that can work in a lot of applications. So, I mean, Monty, for you, is just for me to understand QA solid, because it's like, so you're leveraging AI, but then there's also then also, because obviously this is for B2B, so it's like you're leveraging AI, but then also like there's like you've actually coded, so it's not vibe coded, but it has like an AI infrastructure to kind of some guardrails that you've placed on like how the tool actually like works. Is that so? It's like an agent. It's like would you call it like an agent on some level, like a QA agent?
Yes, yes, it is, multi-agentic. I think what we have done, so you have an app, and it's like you hiring an intern, and you give intern the access, go figure out this app. So the intern is going to navigate everything that is possible, within that app. And he's an intelligent intern, so he's making notes of what's the information model, what's the this is a loan application, what should borrower is filling out, I'm a patient intake, what information am I giving, how can I navigate and do different aspects. So at QSOL, what we do is we really have agents to mimic that intern. So we bought the target app, discover everything about the target app, and create almost a digital twin of the software system. And underlying is a knowledge graph. So while we use AI, we use LLMs to discover the target app, and then there is human in the loop, because the output, the knowledge graph you may have some edges that don't make sense or that don't rely. So there is no hallucination free LLM, right? So that human in the loop approves or validates, prunes, edits, changes prompts if needed, and then you go to the next step, which is generation of tests. That's the test harness. So we use AI there as well, generative AI, to write into no code, steps, sort of English like steps that one can easily understand versus having to code. And then the end output is very deterministic, rule based. That's what we deliver to the client. So there is heavy AI leverage, multi-agentic steps with human in the loop validation. So that's why we go to market as a managed service. So just like Henrik said, it's AI plus human in the loop. That's the offering.
Have you guys found, have you guys found, I guess my question is like we're talking about creating these tools, and we're creating, ultimately like hoping to get like adoption. So, how, I guess, how have you guys seen any companies, I feel like, really well, like really promoting like whatever they're offering as well? And I can really only speak to it generally from some of my small use cases, but like from a B2C standpoint, I've gone into like I enjoy Stanley, which is like it's a helpful AI writing agent where it's not all about like writing everything from there, but like it provides some sort of guardrails. But I initially went onto the website, and like the way they kind of sold me through, like I found out about it from somebody on LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, let me go check this out. I put in my LinkedIn URL, and then I didn't actually sign up for it because I just kind of wanted to find out how much it was, and I found out it was $100 or something, and I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to do this right now. But then they ended up sending me ads around like, hey, this is what we'd recommend, like this is what you should be doing, and that's actually how they kind of got me interested in it. Obviously, your tool doesn't work the same way, but even with that scraping tool that I mentioned a little bit ago, ultimately the way we ended up adopting that item was because it was so inexpensive that it seemed like, what's the harm, and let's try this, and let's see if anything. But there's plenty of different things out there, and I get like when it comes to B2B, I anticipate there's obviously like this level of like security that's necessary, but I think to your point around like the services part of it, like that's definitely a selling proposition because it's not just the output, like here's the deliverable, here's the graph, make sense of it, but like, hey, we're going to clean it up for you and work with you on this. My long-winded question is like, how do you guys see, like, I guess, Henrik, how are you promoting Audos? Like, I mean, like, I feel like, how are you getting adoption of that product that like seems that makes it like accessible for people to like want to try it out? And I have, like, although I've played with it, I haven't gotten to the end of my, like, I assume there's like a monetization component of it, correct? Like, I mean, at some point, like, so how are you getting people to adopt by going through the funnel and like kind of trying to play around and like having some investment in what their end product can be, and then at the end, it's around like, okay, now now you should buy it or something.
Well, there's two questions, right? Like, how do we try to get in front of customers, and then what is our monetization? So I'll take the first one first. We do, like I think everybody else, like we have currently two, I guess, channels that work well for us. One is classic ads through Instagram. We run Instagram. 60% of Americans would like to start something, and only about 80% does. And so we run ads that simply says something as dumb as, have you ever thought about starting something but don't know where to start? And then people click that, and then we have agents running inside Instagram DMs. And so people will just DM us, and then we will run kind of like a conversational flow that onboard people onto our system. So that's kind of like on that. And then PR has been our second kind of like growth driver. So we've been relatively good at kind of like getting out there and getting the TechCrunch articles. And we wrote in op-ed pieces in Washington Post, and we got written up in The Economist and other things like that. So we've been kind of like trying to go a little bit of like a high-end comms kind of like strategy, and then basic ads. On the business model, I mentioned like the business model I think is still relatively early for a lot of these agentic stuff. The current thesis for us is that there'll be a whole host of people that will make decent money. We call them donkey coins because we think they'll make
I saw that.
like $1 million turnover businesses for a people, one person or
Oh
less.
my God, that'll be so fun. Like a vibe-coded unicorn. I love it.
Those are the people that we are after. And in many ways, I mean, like, I don't have the best terminology about it yet, but the way I think it's a little bit like us being a publisher, where we find people that we think has authenticity and authority with a specific group, and they have a specific kind of area where they would like to build a bunch of agentic businesses in. And then they go through our system, and we can see which one have traction there. And then basically we sign people on, like we're a record label, where we say, we'll give you some money, we'll give you some resources, advertising, technology, all those different things, and then we will share on your upside. So we're currently running a 15% kind of revenue stream or royalty stream, very much like a record label. Yeah. And then people have the ability to be on our platform and have a relationship with us as long as they want. And if they don't want to work with us anymore, they can take their logo and the URL and their customers, and then they can go somewhere else. And so we don't take equity. And part of the reason is that a lot of these businesses will probably never get sold. So, and a lot of these businesses are not actually standalone like LLCs, right? This is just somebody goofing around on their phone while they're kind of doing other things. And so we're trying to help invent a new asset class of entrepreneurs, in the same way that YouTube invented a new asset class of media people, or media properties, or Airbnb invented a new property of people who made hospitality, or Shopify did the same thing with people who are e-tailers. And so our thesis is that there's a lot of people, what we call everyday entrepreneurs, who have a specific kind of like user group that they understand and that they think they would like to serve. And then we would like to be basically the underlying platform that helped them do that.
I love it. It makes, was it Reese Witherspoon? I think she's got like whatever her book, there's like a book club thing. And I think it follows a similar model. It's like, hey, we have this book club. Let's see what resonates and everything. Then they ultimately flip that into deals where some of these things are turned into television shows and movies. So, I mean, it's, call it a different model, but it's kind of like, let's like suss out if there's something here. I mean, and from a user perspective, just so you know, like when I've been playing with Audos, I'm like, how can I make something that potentially is service? Like, it's not that I don't I'm not even initially coming into it with an idea first. I'm coming into it like, oh, like as somebody that dabbles and tries to play around with different things. I'm like, how can I leverage this to potentially help me? I'm like, what is the thing that I can build to support kind of my
I
ecosystem?
think
And I'm
that's
figuring it
perfect.
out.
I think, I've obviously, so we ran this, I started, well, I was part of a team that started a company back in 2010-ish, 9, 10, that we sold to Facebook. And after that, I made a little bit of money and I didn't really know what to do next. I think about it as kind of like this in-between time. And so I started what I think as a halfway house for second time founders of like basically people who don't really know what to do next, but they want to like do something entrepreneurial. And so we got a big kind of warehouse in Chinatown, New York City, and then we basically ended up building a bunch of stuff. And we were fortunate that some of the things became public companies and unicorn stuff like that. And what I think I learned through that process is that most people, they don't really necessarily have like an idea. They just know they want to do something entrepreneurial. And so what we spend the last 10, 15 years trying to understand is how do you take somebody from the space of like, I'd like to start something, I just don't know what to start, into having like a real business. And our starting point is not the idea, it is who is the customer and what is their problem. In fact, I have like my post-it notes here, and for people who are listening to it can't see it, but it calls it sucks that. And so like I'm like constantly just hunting for problem statements, because I think once you have a very good problem statement, you have an idea. So Audos is really the codifying of this terminology that we spent 15 years to develop, and that kind of built a bunch of big companies, but where we could only kind of help 30 people a year, now we can help thousands, if not hundreds of thousands a year.
Yeah. Well, here, so like Monty, let's play into that. Like, what's the problem statement? Like what's like the one line problem statement? Because I will say to challenge you also a little bit, because I've seen it when you're like, and I've seen it with my brother. He launched a Kickstarter and he ended up raising $2 million on there, and like so he's building something out right now, and he hasn't like shipped yet or anything, but it's like you sometimes just get so like it. I feel like sometimes from a messaging standpoint or like understanding the consumer, like the most challenging place to be is the CEO or the developer, because you're like, oh, here's all these features, blah blah blah, they're so interesting. It's like no one gives a shit. What are you solving? So, Monty, what are you solving?
Yeah, I'm solving, to make, software systems robust, right? Because the number of, there is the microservices that happened, I would say, in 2010s and, adoption across the board. So now, that they were like millions. I feel there will be billions of agents, very personalized, very easy to create, and but I think a fleet of agents coordinated on a specific domain in a meaningful way, I think is where one can make a big difference with its own ingrained knowledge. Generally they call them RAG in front of LLMs, so that you have your own intelligence codified, not just the LLM, which is way too generalized, right? So I think that aspect is important. And while I founded the company to be a pure product company, but I was, there were many edge cases that the AI would not handle, and that's where human in the loop helped that process. So I
Yeah.
pivoted from being a product company to services, and now I would say the next 12 months for me is reducing that human component, and become a product company again, and self-serve. And then now that I'm going after B2B, then I would go sort of B2C or direct to developers. So that's sort of the my vision. But I think establishing myself in this very crowded space, because this dev tools is lot of tools there. So I think there, raising above the noise is challenging. We are making progress, and so going to market, something along the lines of what Henrik said, but more focused on B2B and IT, focused approaches, channels that we are exploring.
If I may interject, I think, and I think this is, Henrik has a peer, a publicist that like that's who I talk to like get him on here and everything. So like my point, it's like like you have a name and you have established credibility. Monty, you've also exited, like you've done things as well, but like I am fully, I guess I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I think that LinkedIn is not only a platform for finding and hiring jobs, but it's really ultimately about like talking professionally about professional stuff to professionals. You know what I mean? My point in saying this is that I actually feel like I've found a lot of success for myself as well as it's converting from one of my clients in terms of being a little bit more visible on LinkedIn and just talking about like your expertise. But I think it really comes down to it's like it's not about it's not about making everything you're writing about an ad. It's about commenting on kind of like what's happening, in the zeitgeist on some level and having an opinion about it. And like, posting something about hallucinations and never even mentioning like your company. I think that LinkedIn for most founder-led organizations that are early stage of adoption, I think most people are fully underutilizing the platform that you have accessible to you as I hate the word thought leader, but like just to say something on LinkedIn, and I'll just to get some stats to support that as well. Like I've been at my client for about a month now, and I think I recently saw something around like from uh, from reach impressions and everything, like 2,000% increase. Granted, I also want to caveat that to it started with like zero, like people weren't really active on it at all. But the thing is, and I'll even speak to my own LinkedIn group, the amount of people that are just lurking and looking for information and quality content from real people to like listen to that maybe aren't being bombarded in their email box is there's droves. Like for example, like if I were to pull up a graph in terms of my LinkedIn group, like it gets 100, the group has 100,000 daily active users. Do you know how many people of those actually comment or react to absolutely anything? It's like 0.01%. And I could probably go like look at the number. My point is that like I would love to encourage more founders period just to be more visible and to be saying so let me just add something on your let me add something on your to-do list in addition to running your company, creating your product and everything. I'd love to encourage you to like be talking, speaking, having an opinion, and also not being boring. Like don't be boring. I feel like people want to read quality content. People regularly I think I'm finding more and more people are getting rid of Facebook, or getting rid of LinkedIn, or getting rid of TikTok. Or I've added this tool called Be Present, where it like limits my like it kind of is a pattern disruptor. But you know what? On LinkedIn, I don't do it. It also has like different addiction component to it that it's not. It's just different. But I find myself actually reading long form content on here, and I don't know how you guys interact or how you waste your time, but like Monty, I think you should be posting more. Like that is my long-winded way of I think you should be becoming more visible. There is I think people call it like founder-led marketing, and I think it's a huge opportunity to like highlight your expertise. I also find in here because I was actually just on your LinkedIn.
I think I saw the Notion founder, and it was very, very cute. He clearly had never done it before, and I think he was basically making the same point, saying there are companies out there that has like a tenth of our audience that gets like a lot of attention and funding because of that.
Yeah.
And so he had promised himself this kind of, I think it was like a 30-day challenge where he had to kind of like
Yes.
post every day. And the first thing was kind of like honestly painful, right? You could just
Who
see
cares?
that
No one saw it probably.
this guy just really didn't kind of like enjoy it. And then obviously by day 30, like it was getting better and better.
You're like
And
it's
so
not that bad. It's like
I would echo what
whatever.
you say. I remember when the whole influencer thing started, I was kind of poo-pooing it a little bit. I was like, but then, we ended up at Bark signing like hundreds of influencer dogs, and it was like a huge growth driver for
Yeah.
us. And I think you're right, like building in public, but doing it in kind of like a humble way where you don't necessarily try to talk about yourself all the
Yeah.
time, but you talk about what you tried and what you learned from it. I think that's very powerful, and I
Yeah.
think to your point, like now just a must do part of your behavior as a founder.
Yeah. Completely agree. That's something that I'm not very good at. I've been a CTO, all my life, and with now CEO, with Henrik success, I'm like a fly on the wall. So I think for me to,
Monty, give me your LinkedIn. I'll just do it. Don't look at it for a month and then we'll talk later.
I
No,
love that.
seriously, it's like just make it less scary, you know. But even I mean, for anybody, even so, one of the things I've actually, I think a few powerful ways to at least like do like founder-led marketing because it's like you, it's I feel like the sales cycle on some level isn't really about the product itself. It's around just people finding out that you exist and it's like, "Oh, it's like I actually I could benefit from this tool." So a few things I like to say is that like your entire team, like I think that like I've been seeing certain teams like where they do like a common background color, like look like a little army of, QA solve people, like really like commenting and talking about things and people at some point within your industry like connected dots like, oh, I keep seeing this color or I keep seeing this word. Also, I think a big missed opportunity on LinkedIn is like when people don't actually lead with, so in their tagline most of the time people say like what they do, and the reason I think that you don't want to lead with that is because say if you're commenting or if people are just scrolling, I think you want to lead with your company name. So it's like Monty, right now your tagline is helping companies save time and money on software testing using AI. I would recommend that you would go in first and actually say QA solve, like the QA solve saves blah 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 blah. And the reason is like if you go comment on things based on what's like cut off in LinkedIn, it's like they'll see your name and then they'll see your company name and like say like the regular branding that like if everybody that's a part, participating in your organization kind of adopts this methodology. I mean, I'm sure there's a book on it,
Jackie, well,
but like I
how
call
does
it.
that strive with your how does that strive with your other, I think, kind of point about not talking too much about yourself, like the
Well, so you can say something smart, but then it's like you're not really talking about QA solve, but like let's say you're contributing whatever thought around whatever the topic is, um, and you're still talking about that, but like continuously following you, like in kind of the background, kind of the B-roll of it is this visual, is this QA solve ultimately is what you are doing, so like that will follow you, but like you're not always going to be talking about it, but it kind of just is staying authentic to you and like people see or like, become more familiar with the name. Like that's my rationale around that. And I think it works. I think if you can leverage like your entire team talking about what you're doing, I think it's subtle, but it's
Yeah.
there. Like you can be commenting on somebody, congratulations on your success with whatever it is, and then like that the QA solve is coming up in the feed. Like people see it at least. Like the big conversation on LinkedIn is actually like the amount of views people get on comments. Comments are a huge driver for visibility. And I don't like Monty. I don't think you have a product problem. I think you have a visibility problem. Honestly, it's like if you want further adoption, like I think you can be subtle about it, but I think
Yeah.
you can also not be shy about it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I mean, it's so well said. So technically, the product is really awesome because my two, I mean, I have, two, three cases where my direct competitors, I have won them over, switched them from, competitor to my product. So I think it is certainly marketing without spending on the budget that I can afford at this time.
No.
And but I think visibility is certainly an issue. I think I do have is lean in a good marketing team that has done some little bit of a lot of experiments, but certainly increase some flow of leads through outbound. Some inbound also have been coming in, which are converting very well. I would say getting the right meetings is challenging, but once the meetings to trial and uh, trial to client conversion is like 70-80% there because they see the money, they see the value,
Yeah.
and so I think
They see an efficient team. So it's not only about cutting people, but it's about making your team more efficient.
exactly,
Hopefully.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're getting close to time, and I realize that I feel like this conversation can go longer. But I guess, do you guys want to leave any final thoughts or pitch or anything like that while people are on?
I like your suggestion on getting people to be more vocal about what they do. I find it myself to be terrifying, and I often find it to be
Give me
kind
your
of,
login. I'll do it for you too.
I mean, I find it to be cringy, like, but I also have people that help with that, and sometimes they write something for me, and I find it to be like, I don't want to be that person that like goes like, "Hey, look at me," and I definitely want to not want to be like the honored to, like like
No, I
thrilled
hate
about.
honored to.
And so I spend a lot of time trying to think about like how can I provide value to somebody who spent the time reading this thing, and so, but it takes time and it's practice, and so I think that's a good call out that you mentioned that people should probably do it a little bit more.
Well, maybe do it in your voice notes app and everything. Like if you see something and you have it, like, God, I really don't like this, blah 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 blah, and then turn that into an article. Like, I mean, honestly, like if you have an opinion about absolutely anything, I think that there's a piece of content there, and just jump into it. Like, Monty, any final thoughts that you'd like to leave?
Yeah, I think AI is here in everything that we do, and we have created a very non-intrusive way of trying something out and see, measure its outcome. So if you are into software, try it out. And if you're not into software, adopt AI, wholeheartedly, and because it's going to be around you, whether you learn or not, you'll be just learning it a little later. So I would say get on the bandwagon early on.
Arvid Pedersen in the chat actually was like, "Hey, can you please get to my question?" So Arvid, sorry about that. Here, let's do it real quick. All right, so his question is, what is the overall effect of misinformation in AI, and how do you handle it and the subsequent downsides? Second question is, how do you safeguard a person's personal data and potential risk to privacy? I don't know. I don't know what privacy we have right now, but so let's take the first one. What is the overall effect of misinformation in AI, and how do you handle it in the subsequent downsides? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead, Henrik.
I mean, it's not my. I'm reading this book, so maybe I can give that as a recommendation. It's called The Revolution of the Public and the Crisis of Authority in the New Millennium. It's a pretty decent book. It's by Martin Gurry. And it basically makes the thesis that a lot of people have rejected democracy, like they don't really like the way that things are governed, but that they don't really have anything else than complaining. Is, I think I'm paraphrasing a big book. What I think when I hear a misinformation, I think it is that I'm not sure that's an AI problem. I think a lot of people have the worldview, and they are now trying to find ways of kind of like either finding other people that share the worldview or try to kind of get other people to kind of conform to their worldview.
The echo
And I think
chamber.
and I think AI is insanely useful for that because obviously you can amplify your own voice, and institutions and organizations can amplify their own voice. And so in many ways, I think I'm going a little bit back to basis, that I think our job is not necessarily to counter misinformation as much it is to open our minds and our hearts to other people's perspective and try to understand why it is that they're doing that specific thing. And then, try to learn, and then, obviously build a dog business. One of the beautiful things I love about dogs is that it's actually one of the few things that we all seem to agree on are awesome.
Yeah.
And when you stand in the dog park, you get to talk to a lot of people that are not just, algorithmically chosen for you. And so when you can ask, and often you can get a good rapport to start with by talking about dogs, and then you can start to learn what they think about other things. And so for me, I think misinformation is a huge issue, so don't get me wrong. I think it's a bigger issue that we seem to be increasingly not willing to kind of open our minds to kind of other people's perspective and try to understand what it is that they're trying to say. And that's probably what I'm working the most on myself.
Love that.
Yeah, I completely agree with the first question, so I'm going to skip that second one. Having privacy, that's well excluded by most LLMs. That's what they explicitly say. But at QSolve, it was not acceptable to healthcare and banking sector. So we had to create our own instance of LLM on our servers so that there is no third party, there is no data going out. So that's another way of making your information secure. So with LLMs and agentic, you have to be very careful in terms of what are the tokens you are sending, what observability you have, and that is a very valid concern.
Yeah, perfect. You guys, thank you guys. I will Monty, Henrik, if you guys will hold on one sec, I'm going to do kind of the false stop just so we can upload and everything, but you guys stay on. I want to thank you both for your time and your insights. Everybody that is still on, I will be editing this episode. I'll put some additional content out about it. And I would love to encourage anybody that is considering starting a company or wants to play around maybe with some vibe coding, like go check out Henrik's platform Audos. And then for anyone in the B2B space, please check out QA Solve. I actually have already recommended to my brother and my best friend for their companies because I think that there's absolute applications to for kind of especially SaaS programs or just programs in general to like figure out like what's going wrong there and do it better and fix it for the end user before they tell you about the problem. So thank you everybody, and hope to catch you guys on the next call. The next mentor series chat is actually going to be about sales and building a sustainable business. It is going to be starting in about half an hour. See you there. Bye bye.